Greetings, YouTube. This is the very first episode of my new TEW 2016 series. This is based off of 1987 WWF, and yes, I'm calling it WWF because that's what it was back then, so none of this WWE crap. This is episode 1 for what the series I'm entitling The Price of Hulkamania. Now, I am a big old school fan, so I definitely enjoy this time period. This is about the time period that I first started watching wrestling. My memories started probably about 1988-ish. My very first actual wrestling memory was Sting against Ric Flair at the first ever Clash of the Champions, which, kind of got my love affair of professional wrestling. So, the late 80s will always have a special part of my heart, but I prefer this to the Attitude Era. So, when I do these TEW games, I always do the save based off of the Golden Age mod. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. I do like a little test run when I install these mods, just to make sure nothing is really off about the mod. Because even though, all the work these mod makers do to create these mods, there's some things that, I see that they might miss, stuff that I think it should be changed. And this was no different. When I did my initial, test, I usually do a couple weeks of gameplay just to and test things like chemistry and stuff like that out, just to see what's been in the game. I did notice, I forget who exactly, whether it was, I think it might have been either the Road Warriors or the Midnight Express. The chemistry wasn't set, and they ended up having bad chemistry with each other, which in 1987 that should not fly, because at this time in 1987, these teams were already established and already, great tag teams. So the mod maker should have put them, as good, having good chemistry when teaming together, but for whatever reason they didn't. So I had to go back and set it up in the mod myself. And here's something I noticed in this mod that kind of, I wouldn't really say bugged me, but if you're creating a mod in a certain time period, I would worry about like chemistry and all that for stuff, people in that time, in that era. I'd make sure that the Road Warriors, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, Heart Foundation, etc. all have proper chemistry setups. So, if someone doesn't start a save, you won't see a team like the Rock and Roll Express having bad chemistry teaming together, because, you know, that's absurd. But this mod maker, I mean, I'm not really trying to put him on blast, but I noticed that they set it for CM Punk and John Cena having great chemistry when facing each other. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have great chemistry when they fought each other, but that was 2011, 2010. This is like almost 30 years, ahead, you know, ahead in this era. This is set in 1987, but yet they've set chemistry for 30 years down the road. That's kind of crazy, because I believe, like, if you're setting a mod for like in the past, and if they're not even in the game as of yet, because this is before their time, they shouldn't have a pre-set up chemistry. But I mean, that's me on my soapbox. So yeah, just a little bit of what I do with these saves before I start up a actual legit gameplay. But yeah, so I'm starting off as WWF, and this is the build up to WrestleMania 3. The first episode is actually week 2 of March 1987, because the first week I noticed the two shows of the WWF, Superstars of Wrestling and Wrestling Challenge, they're both B shows, and unfortunately I can't change it. So until I'm able to change Superstars of Wrestling to A show, or maybe even create a new A show program, then it's going to be basically all B show, level weekly shows, and then you have the once a month either super shows or the pay-per-views, which in 1987 was only WrestleMania. But spoiler alert, I'm going to add some, and I'm going to add more Saturday night's main events, because if you remember, if you watched, or you catch up on the history of these on the WWE Network, Saturday night's main event was something that was done periodically during Saturday Night Live breaks over the course of the year. So it was about 3 to 4 Saturday night main events a year. But I'm going to up that, and more than likely I'm going to be upping the pay-per-views sooner rather than later. Starting in 1987, I'll add SummerSlam and Survivor Series, and then starting January of 88, the Royal Rumble, and then we'll go from there. But so just for right now, we're building up WrestleMania 3, and these shows are B shows, but I'm gonna do, sort of like a normal show, but the benefits of these shows aren't gonna be as great as the A shows. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get to the show. And the show is being held in front of 3,574 people at the Shrine Expo Center in California. And with these B shows, unfortunately, the attendance won't be as great as it would have been for like an A show or an event, because, with B shows, the fans aren't expecting, a good shows, because it is B show. So that's why, WWF in 1987, they, normally they wouldn't be drawing just like 3,500 people to a show, but since this is a B show, it's going to have less people. So we'll make do with what we have, and we open Superstars of Wrestling with the commentary team of Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura hyping up today's program. The main event will be, the feature bout will be a WWF Tag Team Championship match between the Hart Foundation and the Can-Am Connection, consisting of Tom Zink and Rick Martel. Also appearing on the show today will be Andre the Giant, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the Intercontinental Champion Randy Macho Man Savage, and the WWF Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan. And that segment got a 77B rating. And we go on to the first match, and a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat. The Hart Foundation defeated Can-Am Connection in 10:15 when Bret Hart defeated Tom Zink by pinfall with a heart attack after Jimmy Hart caused a distraction, and the Hart Foundation made defense number 1 of their WWF World Tag Team titles. And in terms of ring work, Bret Hart was head and shoulders above everyone else, and Tom Zink was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everyone else's in-ring performance. So Rick Martel had an in-ring performance of 55, Tom Zink 44, Jim Neidhart 71, and Bret Hart 81, which even as good as Bret Hart is, I'm surprised he has an 81, because I have to double check the performance, how it's based off of, but this is, late 80s WWF, so it would be judged more on performance than, actual work rate. But hey, I'm not going to complain about that. Tom Zink is improving in performance skills, and the match got a 75 B minus rating, which I'm actually, pretty pleased with that. Next segment is backstage area. So let's say right after the commercial break, we see the Can-Am Connection backstage. Tom Zink is, kind of holding his head after that heart attack and taking the fall. And Zink is like, Ricky, we need a manager because, how can we succeed in this company when we got all these managers with tag teams sticking their noses where they don't belong and it's costing us matches? We could have won the WWF Tag Team Championships if it wasn't for that no good Jimmy Hart sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. And Rick is like, I don't know, just basically he's apprehensive about getting managers because he doesn't trust many managers because, honestly, throughout time, most of the managers have been heels and, you know, being baby faces, they've seen, what some of these managers have done in the past where, they rip off their um, charges. They steal the money from the wrestlers they're managing, and Martel being the classic babyface, he doesn't really want a manager, but at the same time he does understand that hey, Jimmy Hart is a distraction at ringside, and it would be good if they have someone that's watching their backs, but at the same time, he's not, unsure, and he's just like, I mean, he's just, he doesn't know. And Zink is like, think about it, Rick, because I guarantee you, if we have a manager, that's watching our backs, we can become the WWF Tag Team Champions. So basically, Zink is all about getting a manager, and Martel's like, I don't know. So that segment got a 44D rating. Next segment, ain't about that decent wrestling, but didn't have much heat. Honky Tonk Man defeated Corporal Kirchner in 7-33 by pinfall with a shake, rattle, and roll. And Corporal Kirchner had an in-ring performance of 43. Honky Tonk Man 64. No working improvements. The match got a 62C rating. Can't be too fussed about that. And next segment, on the interview stage, if you don't know or don't remember, they had an interview stage at near the entrance way in the arena where Mean Gene or one of the other interviewers like Craig George and um, I don't know. I forget who else off the top of my head right now, but they would conduct the interviews. And in this case, Mean Gene is interviewing Jake Roberts, who is currently embroiled in a feud with the Honky Tonk Man. Because for those of you who don't know or forget, they're Jake Roberts and Honky Tonk Man are feuding. Classic angle on Jake's talk show, The Snake Pit, where the Honky Tonk Man nailed Jake Roberts with a guitar. And this was basically the Jake Roberts babyface turn, because up to that point, Jake Roberts was the heel, but he was getting cheered by a lot of the fans, so they went ahead and turned him babyface, and this was, a number of months since the Honky Tonk Man turn, because basically the Honky Tonk Man was the opposite of Jake Roberts in that the Honky Tonk Man debuted as a babyface, but he was booed like crazy. Think of Roman Reigns, but with less talent. Because he was just Honky Tonk Man was just unfit for the role of being a babyface, which unlike Roman Reigns, which I think he is a good babyface, and I think I think a lot of these fans are Well, I'm not gonna go on a rant about it, but I think Roman Reigns is unjustly, um, criticized by a lot of the internet marks. Oh, I hate him because he's got 5 moves and blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah, so basically, Jake Roberts is hyping up their upcoming match at WrestleMania 3. Standard promo that Jake Roberts will cut, saying, Honky Tonk Man is a weasel, and he's hiding behind an even bigger weasel than Jimmy Hart, and Honky Tonk Man is going to get a DDT at WrestleMania. So, Mean Gene's developing better performance skills. The segment got a 76B minus rating. Not too bad. Next segment, a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat. Harley Race defeated Leaping Lanny Poffo in 6:39 by pinfall with a diving headbutt. Lanny Poffo had an in-ring performance of 36, Harley Race 77. No worker improvements, and the match got a 67 C+ rating. Next segment is a backstage video promo of the Junkyard Dog, and once again, Harley Race and Junkyard Dog is feuding over, the crown of the king title of the WWF, because remember, in this time period, Harley Race is the king of the WWF, and Junkyard Dog, he feels that, this is America, we don't bow to kings, and how he only bows to the man upstairs. Which, I guess if you want to think about it, maybe Jack Tunney or even Vince McMahon Sr. Maybe Vince McMahon Sr. because he's dead, but yeah, just basically hyping up their upcoming match at WrestleMania 3 and how he's going to humble King Harley Race, and he's going to become the new king of the WWF, and he's not going to make anyone bow to him because he doesn't believe that people should bow. So that segment got a 71 C+ rating. And about that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat. Billy Jack Haynes, that's Billy Jerk Haynes to you, defeated Tiger Chung Lee in 6:52 by submission with the full Nelson. Tiger Chung Lee had an in-ring performance of 47, and Billy Jack Haynes has an in-ring performance of 65. And Billy Jack Haynes is improving in both technical and performance skills. Bombshell tonight. That match got a 63 C rating. And then after the match, Hercules comes in with Bobby Heenan and jumps Billy Jerk Haynes. And Hercules beats him down with Hercules' chain and then slaps on his version of the full Nelson. Because if you remember, or if you didn't know, building up to WrestleMania 3, Hercules and Billy Jack Haynes were feuding over who had the better full Nelson. So this is just hype, building up to their match at WrestleMania 3. No worker improvements. The segment got a 69 C+ rating. And then in a backstage angle, Natural Butch Reed jumped Coco Beware from behind, beating him down, as they were also feuding leading up to WrestleMania 3. And so this is just more build for the match, which is Butch Reed and Slick are an awkward pairing. They seem to throw each other's timing off, which is disappointing. It looks like I might have to get Slick away from Butch Reed and maybe put Butch Reed with someone else. It's that, and see, this is what I'm talking about with, the mod maker not doing their due diligence with chemistry. Butch Reed and Slick weren't like a great pairing, but they weren't like an awkward pairing. But in real time, they should have had at least, good chemistry. But the segment got a 53 C- rating. Next segment, and a bout that subpar wrestling in Little Heat, Adrian Adonis defeated Outback Jack, excuse me, and 601 by submission with a Goodnight Irene. Outback Jack had an in-ring performance of 29, Adrian Adonis 64, and Outhouse Jack is improving in performance skills. The match got a 56 C- rating. And then we cut to another pre-taped promo of Roddy Piper talking about his feud with Adrian Adonis. And at WrestleMania 3, he's going to shave Adrian Adonis bald. And then he talks about the rumor retirement that, around this time, Piper in real life announced that he was retiring after WrestleMania 3. However, in this time frame and this universe, Piper will not be retiring. He's going to be sticking around, although he will be doing the occasional movie. But as of right now, he's going to be staying on after WrestleMania 3. But that segment got a 72 B- rating. Next segment, and a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat. The Islanders defeated the Wild Samoans in 9-13 when Haku defeated Sika by submission with a tongue and deck grip, which I should change that finisher because Haku was not doing the tongue and deck grip in 1987. So I should probably change it to the thrust kick that he did a lot. Tama had an in-ring performance of 48, Haku 54, Sika 66, and Afa 73. No worker improvements. The match got a 64C rating. And a decent match. Paul Orndorff defeated CV Afi at 725 and 727 by pinfall with a pile driver. CV Afi had an in-ring performance of 53. Orndorff had an in-ring performance of 76. CV Afi is improving his performance skills, and the match got a 65C rating. And another interview segment, Mean Gene Okerlund is interviewing Bobby Heenan, and the number one contender for the WWF Championship, Andre the Giant. And they're just hyping up their title match against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3, with Bobby Heenan basically saying, reiterating that Hogan has been ducking, Andre for the last 3 years. He's never given Andre a title shot. And at WrestleMania 3, Andre will show the world why he's been undefeated for all these years and will become the new World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion. That segment got a 98 rating. Good work there. And a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat. Ricky Steamboat defeated Jimmy Jack Funk in 8-12 by pinfall with a flying karate chop. Jimmy Jack Funk had an in-ring performance of 35, Ricky Steamboat 86, and Jimmy Jack Funk is improving in performance skills. The match got a 72 B- rating. And then we've got another interview segment with Mean Gene with Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. Once again, hyping up the title match for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 3 between him and Ricky Steamboat. And if you remember, of course, most people should remember the iconic match they ended up having at WrestleMania 3, but what led to that match was late 1986. Randy Savage injured Ricky the Dragon Steamboat by crushing Steamboat's larynx with the ring bell, which put Steamboat out of action, and now Steamboat's back, and he's going after the IC title, and Savage is basically vowing to put Steamboat back on the injury list permanently. The segment got an 82 B rating. And then in a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat, the Dream Team defeated the Killer Bees in 11:22 when Greg Valentine defeated Brian Blair by submission with a figure four leg lock after interference from the Iron Sheik. Jim Brunzell had an in-ring performance of 49, Brian Blair 48, Greg Valentine 67, and Brutus Briefcake 62. And also leading up to WrestleMania 3, the Killer Bees and the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov are feuding. So that's where the Iron Sheik's interference came in. And the WrestleMania 3 match is apparently where, the Iron Sheik, Brian Blair, you're punk, you're fag, I'll make you humble. Where if you don't remember the Iron Sheik's famous rant on Brian Blair, that punk, no good motherfucker. I would definitely seek that out on YouTube. It is a trip and a half. And Jim Brunzell is improving his performance skills, and that segment got a 66 C+ rating. And then we closed the show with Hulk Hogan cutting another pre-taped promo on Andre the Giant. Basically, once again, saying that he looked up to Andre. All of his Hulkamaniacs looked up to Andre, and he basically ripped out the hearts of every Hulkamaniac and himself by joining up with the Weasel Bobby Heenan. However, if you sold your soul to get a title match against me, then, you got it. And at WrestleMania 3, I'm going to slay the big stinky giant. So the segment got an 84 B+ rating. And then a post-show battle royal, just for the live crowd. Hulk Hogan obviously won a battle royal in 2013. The final four was Hogan, Bundy, King Kong Bundy, Jake Roberts, and Hercules, with King Kong Bundy being the final elimination, and Hercules got the most elimination over the course of the match. And we got a host of improvements, but I'm not going to go over them. The match got a 59C rating, which isn't really too big of a deal. And the show ends, and the Iron Sheik was wasted on drugs. Thank you, Blackjack Lanza. And the show ends, and we get a 73 B- rating, which isn't too bad. And until next time, if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and make sure to follow me on YouTube. Until next time, take care.